Today, we're in studio with State Representative Sheryl Delozier and her guest, Lara Raj, a sophomore at Penn State University, majoring in business finance. Representative Delozier, what are we talking about today?
Well, today we are talking about higher education, and Laura and I are going to have a conversation about the many aspects dealing with higher education, since that is something that is a very important issue. And we've been lucky this summer. We had 3 interns in our district office, and we were able to have them do some research on issues that were important to them with public policy. So Laura had picked higher education, and I think that that is something that obviously as a student yourself, you're familiar with that a little bit on that side. But I look forward to having the conversation about a lot of different points on higher ed. So I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I really am passionate about this topic, so I'm excited to talk about it with you today.
Great.
And I'll just jump right into it. As I'm sure you know, paying for a college degree recently has gotten not only more essential in our economy and in our society, but in recent years, it's also gotten significantly more expensive, not only in Pennsylvania, but all throughout the United States. But I want to focus on the 88th district and on Pennsylvania specifically. So what are the major changes you've seen in the public's ability to pay for higher education in your district in the past versus now?
Sure. We have in our district, in the 88th district, we do not have a university, a big university like a Penn State or Shippensburg or anything like that. In our county, certainly, we have a number of universities, but it is something that affects the state as a whole. And so I do believe, when I had Upper Allen, I had Messiah University and worked with a lot of the students there. And talking to the students, I think that time and time again, and talking to the families is something that they have seen a change. They have seen an increase in costs. Many times when you look at the tuition bill, it is one cost, and what is not necessarily shown up front is all of the fees that come along with that, whether it's the library fee or the IT fee or the, green grass fee or whatever it is that may be on there. And I have one of the issues that a lot of the families have said is they just want a bottom line. They just want to know what the cost is. So we have seen that increase. One of the things that I will say, our PASHE system over the last 6 years has frozen tuition. And I think that that is a great step forward for our constituencies here in Pennsylvania. The state system has worked hard to curb costs, and they had mergers to try and do that and work better, work smarter for our students and their families. So I think that our private institutions need to do that as well, and taking a look. And I think that when you take a look, I'm on FIA's board, and so our primary goal and our drive is to make higher education or advanced education, whether it's in a trade or a technical school or college or a community college, any and all of the above that are required to get a job that they're looking for, we need to find a way to make it accessible to families of all income levels. And at FIA, I know I've watched where the demand for the grant program, which is just that, a grant to individuals that are that apply and are financially in need of that. We also have our Ready to Succeed programs, which are for more middle income families that may not have income that are at the level of the grant program, but they certainly can't write the check for college, and they need assistance as well. So I think that that's an important part of the puzzle as well. And then many times we've also had the low interest loans. So we try to keep our loans lower than the federal loans to, again, try to work with the constituencies and the families that deal with that. But over the time and over the last couple of years, as you've mentioned, the demand for all of those programs has gone up. The demand for and the need for recognizing that we want our students to come out of whatever schooling that they're going for to be employable and to not be racked with the level of debt that some have incurred over the years. And I think that one of those issues is dealing with targeted dollars, looking at the fact that, and I don't want to offend anybody that might be watching with a type of degree or anything like that, because there are jobs in all degrees, certainly. But we are looking to prioritize dollars towards degrees that we know that those jobs are in demand. We know that teachers and nurses are in demand. We know that IT is in demand. We know that healthcare as a whole is in demand. So our ability to focus the dollars that we do have to help students go into those fields, I think is the right direction to be taken, not only from FIA, but from any entity that's taking a look at any type of state dollars or federal dollars to assist our students in gaining higher education of some form. So I think that there's a lot to the puzzle that kind of needs to be constantly evaluated to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. And I think some of those targeted investments is what we're going to see more of in the future.
And that's the main reason I actually wanted to talk to you about this, is because you are on the board of FIA, which is the Pennsylvania Higher Education Assistance Agency. Mm-hmm. And that's a big part in what goes into helping a lot of these students pay for college, because it's like you talked about, there are a lot of hidden costs. It's not just tuition. There's also housing. Whether you're living
Absolutely.
in dorms,
right,
off campus, there's different meal plans that you can get, but it depends on how much you make. So there's only so much FAFSA can give you, and there's only so much that these different agencies can also give you. So I wanted to ask you, are there any specific student aid programs unique to Pennsylvania that better equip existing and future college students to afford these different secret things like food services, housing, and altogether tuition?
Sure. No, absolutely. It's a great question. And the ability for each state to run their programs differently. So I think if you looked at Delaware and you looked at Pennsylvania, you looked at Ohio, just to do the three across, I think you probably would see different programs that are available. Entities like FIA don't exist in every state, certainly. And whether they're a government entity or a quasi-governmental entity, it's different. And they certainly depend on federal dollars as well. And the FAFSA is something that you just mentioned with the free application for federal funding, and the students need to fill that out, and that tells a lot about income, and that tells a lot about what people can apply for. But in Pennsylvania, our Treasury Department has 529 plans, and those are savings plans, plans that deal with putting a few bucks away throughout your K through 12 years. We did just start through, and it goes through FIA and working with the Treasury Department here at the state of Pennsylvania, where children that are born get $100 to start an account. And then that might kind of ring some bells with some of the parents to say, hey, we're going to give you that $100 to start this account. And then you just add to it here and there. You don't have to, and this is separate from the 529s. But so those two plans are both run through the Treasury Department, where entities, parents and families can donate to an account for a student. And then that student in the future can use those dollars. And it's just a way that small incremental savings is encouraged because it helps with the burden at the end. So I think those two programs, are really good programs here in Pennsylvania. Obviously, I mentioned a few minutes ago, we have Ready to Succeed programs that are more middle income with maybe a dual income family that, again, doesn't make enough to just write the check straight out for college or community college or trade school. And then we have the grant program for those that comply with income levels. So I think there's a wide, diverse economic opportunities. And certainly there are many, many scholarship opportunities that students need to take advantage of. Many times, there are opportunities for scholarships that kids aren't even aware of, and they go unused. Those dollars go unused from community organizations, whether it's the VFW, whether it's the I don't know. Some of the schools I know have them that are established for a chemistry student that's going to major in chemistry, or a student that's going to major in biology or nursing or architecture. So those are a tool that our guidance counselors in our high schools try to direct students to. And again, that's education. It's the same with FIA and getting out there and educating as to what is available to our students. And so I do believe that many times it's that proactive approach, not only by FIA, but also by the student and their family to investigate all of the opportunities that are out there, because I do believe that Pennsylvania has a very generous public and a very generous, in many cases, opportunity to go and get a scholarship. Certainly not going to pay the entire thing. You know, some scholarships might be $500. Some scholarships might be $5,000. But either way, the ability to take advantage of that, it adds up. So the 529 plans is something that is a long-term savings account, as is the $100 program that recently started. It gives somebody an opportunity to take a big picture when someone's just a toddler, or just born, and say, oh yeah, we really need to plan ahead. And I think that has a lot to do with the economic situation a student might find themselves if they have a family that really took the time to take a look at what that future will hold and what the cost of that future may be. Obviously, as a newborn, you're not going to be able to ask them, hey, what do you want to do when you grow up? But the ability for that family to realize they want to do something, right? So let's give them a nest egg and try to move that forward without the debt, or at least less debt moving forward. So anytime we can do that, I think it's a good thing.
And I think that 529 plan is such an important resource to have, because it really puts it in perspective. You look at the big picture and you start planning ahead. Mm-hmm. And the biggest issue with all of these financial aid programs, scholarship opportunities, is that they go unnoticed, that they go unheard. A lot of people are unaware that they're even around or that they can apply for them. And that's my next question. What are the different avenues you know of where FIA themselves reach out to different college students, or even seniors in high school, or different workshops that you know of that they kind of promote their resources?
We need to get that information into the right people's hands. So how do we do that? I know that FIA has, and is sitting at board meetings time and time again, the staff has increased the amount of outreach to high schools, has increased the amount of outreach to individuals that they know are in that age group, that 17, 18, age group that are graduating from high school. And again, there are so many opportunities out there that, and this is not anything new, but it's something that people have taken more to heart. And I think it's a smart thing. Not every child is going to go to a 4-year college. Not every child should pay to go to a 4-year college. Some kids are not cut out to do that. They want to do something else, and that's fine. We need good people in the trades. We need good people with associate's degrees. We need good people in our offices, in our restaurants, in our, all of the different avenues that are out there. Well, we need to be aware of the fact that we shouldn't be saying, oh, well, you need to go to college and get into debt. Well, that's not and go major in I'm going to make somebody upset. Philosophy. I don't know what job you get with philosophy. So forgive me if anybody's a philosophy major. And the capability of recognizing that maybe that individual should be more tailored towards another degree. So that they can say, parents can say, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
You're going to go into debt at $100,000. Our state system is approximately, with room and board and tuition, approximately $26,000 a year. You're going to go into debt for 4 years, or take out loans for that duration. Okay, but what are you going to do with it?
Exactly.
Right. Where are you going to go with that? Right. And so I think that's an important question to be asking. When you're in 10th grade, and you're thinking about what it is is that you want to go major in and say, well, I want to go to this university because they have a degree in philosophy of how people cross the street. I don't know. And you as a parent probably, need to sit there and say, really? All right. You want to go in that direction. Why? What is it that's driving you in that direction? And maybe find really what that nugget is that can be put to better use without $100,000 worth of debt. So I think those questions need to be asked by the guidance counselors, by the families, by the student themselves, when you're going to carry this debt and see what from it. When we talk about higher education, we talk about outcomes. We talk about looking at how, state dollars are going to benefit our students, in higher education. Well, what are the outcomes? When we're talking about a student going in, getting ready to graduate and deciding what their next move is, we need to also recognize the fact that we need to ask what those outcomes are going to be. Where are these dollars going to go, and where is it going to get you? Is it going to get you where you want to go? Or are you going to come out of a university in debt with no job and not sure, what you want to do? There needs to be a plan. And I think more and more we're seeing our students have that plan to target those high desire or hot in demand jobs that are out there. And I think that that's smart. I can't say that we're not going to ever have, any more philosophy majors out there or whatever, but I know that FIA has been targeting majors for dollars. And I know that our PASHE system, our state system, has also been looking and reviewing what degrees have graduated students. What degrees are, we have a degree in ABC. Well, that's fine, but only 3 people have graduated with an ABC degree, in the last 5 years. Why do we have that major again? Kind of thing. And why is it that we have that and have dedicated services for that degree when students aren't doing it? I know that the chancellor at PASHE has looked at, with the mergers, sharing of campuses as well, so you can go to one state campus, and then if there's a class in another campus, you can take that virtually, and still be able to put that towards your degree. But you don't have the additional costs of trying to track down where that class is, and it saves dollars for the university. It also saves dollars for the students. So, looking for the best way to invest our state dollars, and in our PASHE system especially, the ability to recognize where those dollars are going and how can we use them the best for the student. What's in demand from the student? And I think that needs to be the question. What do our students need, and what do our employers need from those students when they graduate?
Yep, I agree with that. And I will go back to what you said about how everyone has a different path, because I think that's also a really important part of the college experience. It's not just one college experience. There are different versions of it, and there's different pathways that every person takes to get to where they need to be. But a different aspect of what you said, which is let's follow the money and see where it goes, is what do you think institutions of higher education should be doing to become more transparent with how they're allocating their funds?
Well, when we have a public university, part of the PASHE system, those universities have to comply with where the dollars go, because all of the dollars are government dollars. Well, other than like tuition coming from a family or something like that. But when you turn that around and you have your quasi-public schools that are called in for our budgeting purposes, non-preferreds, they are universities that are private universities but receive state tax dollars to allow for in-state tuition levels for those entities. So like a Penn State, we'll use Penn State since you are a student there. And our population of in-state Pennsylvanians that go to Penn State receive a in-state tuition number versus an out-of-state. And I will say that as a University of Delaware graduate, my dad was lovely to tell me as to how much the out-of-state tuition was. point taken. But the here in Pennsylvania, that is what our state tax dollars go to the non-preferred. So Pitt, Penn, Temple, and Lincoln receive state tax dollars in order to allow for our Pennsylvania families not to have as high of a tuition cost. So if someone was coming from Maryland to go to Shippensburg University, they would pay a certain level out of state tuition. So I do believe the transparency needs to be there, and our non-preferreds are the ones that typically are a little bit of a harder nugget to crack in the sense of where are those dollars going exactly. And that's something we have fought for, the transparency issue and the tuition freeze for our private institutions that receive state tax dollars. That has been one of the things that we have fought very hard over the last couple years. There have been some tuition freezes by some of the non-preferreds, but not consistently. And our PASHE system has consistently been able to do a tuition freeze, and we believe that our non-preferred should be able to do the same. But when we watch the dollars, we should be able to watch the dollars, our state dollars go to serve X amount of state students at that university, and per student what it is that they're getting. So depending on the student population, it is a different number per university. And I know that has been part of a ongoing conversation as to exactly where those dollars are going. But I think it's an important point that we do need to follow the dollars.
Yes. And I think they listed the specific funding amounts for those non-preferred universities in House Bill 613. And I wanted to ask you if you could just give a quick overview of what those numbers were and what your opinion on those numbers are, whether it's fair or not, depending on the institution.
Sure. I mean, it is different, as I mentioned, so I'll read here. The Pennsylvania State University received over $242 million. The Pennsylvania College of Technology received $33 million. The University of Pittsburgh received over $115 million. And for the University of Pittsburgh, and Temple University received $3 million, and then another $158 million plus for Lincoln University. And when we talk about Penn, University of Penn, a lot of folks think of that as, obviously it's a great school, it's an Ivy League school, and but it doesn't go to the university, it goes to the veterinary. We have one veterinary school here in Pennsylvania, and Penn has that veterinary school. So that is where the dollars go, because veterinary school is heavily competitive, and maintaining that. So a lot of folks ask why it goes to Penn, but that is for the vet school. And as for the numbers, I think that we need to take a look at the per capita as to how many Pennsylvania students are going to and the dollars that this school is receiving. There are certain other avenues, certainly for any school to receive state dollars, depending on agricultural plans or classes or programs that they have. I know Penn State has Penn Ag. And that is a huge part of our leading industry in Pennsylvania. And so obviously there are state dollars entwined in that as well. Those are not the dollars that we're talking about when they go to help pay for in-state tuition. But the ability for us to follow those dollars and making sure that we are spending them in the best possible way, I think you do need to take a look at the level of funding that Temple may receive versus Penn State may receive, or something like that. Certainly that has been argued as to dividing, $242 million, say, by X number of students, and that every student should have the same amount of dollars credited to them. Meaning that the state dollars that went to them paid for that. So I think it's an interesting math problem to try and follow all of the dollars, but I think the taxpayers deserve that, to know where those dollars are going. And especially in-state tuition families are paying, and they want to know, what kind of break are they getting for their tax dollars going to that university. So I know in many of these cases, many other political issues come into play when we vote these bills and with these dollars. And I know people get frustrated with, well, we shouldn't vote for these dollars because they do X in another part of their university with dollars that are not state dollars. That might be, federal dollars or something else, grants or dollars that come in from a different entity. So we need to keep kind of in our lane. And our lane is the fact that these dollars that we send to these schools deal with in-state tuition for our public school or for our Pennsylvania residents.
Yeah. And based on your experience, what have been the most beneficial government or non-government programs that have helped you get through college and help your children get through college even in this day and age?
Well, I think that there's a number of different opportunities out there. We've kind of listed a few. When I know from the FIA side of it, and certainly other scholarships in our local communities that we talked about. But one of the other avenues that I bring in a lot of times when I'm talking to students, if there is an interest, it's one that I'm biased towards. Both of my children used the military as an avenue for paying for college, and both of mine went the avenue of the Army and applied for the National Army Scholarship. Both applied, both received a national one. My daughter received a 4-year scholarship and my son received a 3-year scholarship. Those are scholarships that pay for tuition. Now, you still have to pay for the room and board, or you could pay for either, actually, but typically you pay for tuition with the dollars because that typically is higher. So you select tuition. But those are opportunities that are out there if someone would take the time to take a look at. I know many of our high schools have JROTC, and that is how my children found out about it, and that was a niche that they found to serve their country as well as pay for school. And as my daughter said at one point, she's an engineering student down at University of Delaware, and she's taking a look at the fact that by serving in ROTC at the University of Delaware with her national scholarship, she will leave University of Delaware. She'll serve her country either in the reserves or in active duty. She's a senior coming up, so she has to make that decision pretty quick. But as she said, by 26 years old, she will have served her country, graduated from the university, and have zero student debt and be able to go on with her life. So that's her goal. Does that comply with everybody else? No, absolutely not. My son went to Shippensburg and used his scholarship there and is a second lieutenant down at Fort Campbell. So he's went active, and I'm proud of both of them and whatever choices that they are making. But that's an avenue. That's just one avenue. There are a lot of other avenues there's apprenticeship programs, that are out there in the trades, that they will pay you as you learn your job. They will pay you as an apprentice as you learn how to become a pipe fitter, an electrician, whatever it is, HVAC. So I think that there are avenues, maybe non-traditional avenues, that are available to our students that people should investigate. And like I said, is everybody going to want to serve in the military as my two children are doing? No. And that's fine. A different stroke for different folk, and I get that. And that's why I think the opportunities need to be investigated, because there is one that will fit. There is one that will fit you, and there is one that will fit any student when they decide and have a plan. And I think that's where our guidance counselors and our teachers in our schools, they have such an important role with our students and directing them and giving them suggestions as to, hey, did you take a look at this? Hey, did you know there's a scholarship over here? Hey, did you know the military has this? Hey, did you know that the trades have this? I think that our teachers and our guidance counselors do yeoman's work when it comes to making sure that our future leaders, those that they're educating, will absolutely need to make some hard decisions, but there is assistance out there if they take the time to go hunt some down and see what fits their plan, see what fits their where they want to go. If they want to go to California, no, don't do that. Stay here in Pennsylvania. So we want our kids to be happy. We want our kids to do what they want to do. And I do believe that there are a lot of avenues out there to let them accomplish that.
Absolutely. And I think that college especially is a very intrinsic avenue that people actually have this goal of attending higher education institutions to really find that passion and that career that fits them. And it's not only, that brings me back to it, it's not only college, there's military, there's trade school. Mm-hmm. So that brings me to my last question. What options do students who don't intend on pursuing college have, and how do you and your district and Pennsylvania government altogether help those students who plan on pursuing other options like trade school or military or trying to get to college in a different way?
Absolutely. And I think Pennsylvania is very lucky in the community college route that they have and the different ones. We're right here in Central PA. We have HAC right here at Harrisburg. It is a university that offers a variety of specialties, everything from certifications to associate's degrees to 4-year degrees. And some folks, like you mentioned, maybe their objective is an associate's, but they get going and maybe they decide, oh no, I'm going to keep going and get my bachelor's. That is, something that like a Penn State, a Harrisburg HAC campus could absolutely do for them. We absolutely have the trades out there and apprenticeship programs that they could investigate and take a look at how it is that they can help them get the certifications that they need to do the job. And they can be their own entrepreneur. They can have their own business, their own, HVAC business. I mean, they are in demand. Your air conditioning goes down right now. Who are you going to call? It's not going to be me, and I have a college education, but I can't fix that. You're going to call one of those guys and their knowledge and their capability of that craft is absolutely in demand. And so they have that. And then you also have, like we mentioned, the military and going and serving in that regard. People have that capability and they need to investigate if that's a route that they want to take. And so I think there are ways to target the next step for a lot of our kids, a lot of our students. And it's pretty amazing when they take the time to try and say, hey, I would really like to do that. Because when that light goes on, when you watch them and they all of a sudden realize they're like, oh yeah, I'd really like to do that. It's pretty amazing to be able to watch that. And I know our teachers and our counselors get to see that a lot more. I saw that with my two when they kind of made that decision. It was a huge weight was lifted off of them that was the route they wanted to take. And is that for everybody? Absolutely not. But that's why we all have these options, and I think that your decision to go to Penn State and do your business and finance and the capability of that's what you wanted, and the other folks in our office this summer, we have political science and which obviously, being in a political office or is goes hand in hand, but you also turn that back around and say that there's so many different aspects of every different career. You and I have had those conversations as to different aspects of my career and others that are in government service, and how do you find those niches that fit you. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked when you're a junior and senior in high school, but we need to make sure that we have the avenues for those.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for letting me talk about this and ask you all these questions.
Sure.
I've always found it really hard to navigate all of these different options, especially when I was a senior in high school. It was hard. So I wish I had the amount of resources Pennsylvania did and still does to kind of navigate through the mess of going to college or doing whatever you want to do. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you about this.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for doing the research and having the conversation.